Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadando suchetoye alahadi samyao sambuddhoshe.
Namo sadango suchedoye arahati samyao sambuddhoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 大师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛, Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. Hi, my name is Heng. Today is the 9th of February here in Queensland, Australia. It's February 8th in California. Glad you're here with us. We're going to continue our investigation of the Flower Garland Sutra. We're working on chapter 39, the Entering the Dharma Realm chapter. Glad that you're here. And I want to also say how much I appreciate the translators that allow me to speak in English. And most of our community at the moment, there are 60 of us here on Zoom. There's a bunch of folks on YouTube as well. Most of them are listening in Chinese. There's a large number also listening in Vietnamese. So that only happens because there are volunteers who are willing to give part of their their Sunday afternoon or their Saturday evening to put in the work of translating, willing to listen to my English ramblings and translate it into meaningful, understandable Chinese and Vietnamese. So much gratitude. We're looking forward to a day when we could have a translation into Spanish. And for that to be meaningful, you'd need some Spanish listeners who ask for it, right? But why not? For the time being, as I looked at our participants here on Zoom, my goodness, let's see, as I go through, excuse me, I see that Guoji and Gokuk are here. And there are a few friends from California here, but most of the people listening at the moment are in Beijing and where else? Let's see, Harbin in Manchuria, Hefei in Anhui, Sichuan. Yeah, so most of the audience, at least listening to the Zoom broadcast, are listening in Chinese. So that's just great. And so glad that the Avatamsaka Sutra is something that you want to make part of your day. We're telling a story, and it's a pilgrimage story, and it's, to my mind, it's pretty lively. That this is really, we're looking into words the Buddha spoke, stories the Buddha told, and this is one of the most lively of them. So, to get going, let's invoke spiritual presence. Furthermore, we would like to respectfully acknowledge the Ugambe language region here, the Kombumerri people, and acknowledge them as traditional storytellers and the custodians of this land, where the monastery is located. We pay respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 我们恭敬地承认Ugambe语族的孔布马里人，是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Okay, I recently got an email from a bhikshuni in the Tibetan tradition who teaches in the Santa Cruz area, and she had a very, I want to say, it's funny, it seems aggressive, strong, very strong statement about the original storytellers and custodians of the land in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So we'll be probably adopting her statement when we're back in Redwood Vihara in Santa Cruz Redwoods. So it's the Ohlone people who were there. Bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法扬万亿国中，共寻其法界和平，利益报他那后德。Yep. Here we are. Look at my desktop, if you will, please. What's going on? This is the next advisor of Sudana. And we finished number 4 last week, and you can count different ways. I went online today to see who considers this teacher what number, and we got everything from 4, 5, and 6. So he's here he is. It's this gentleman in blue who has come down off a throne, off a Dharma seat, where he was speaking in the middle of the city. Sudana is this guy here in the cloud of dust with a halo. So the halo indicates that he is already a sage. He's already awake. His Buddha nature is awake. It's not covered over anymore, so he's got this light. And the clouds, you might consider those like clouds in the air, but they're not. It's a cloud of dust. He's a traveler. He's a pilgrim. He's on the road all the time. So now, what's unique and remarkable about this image and what makes this part of the story so interesting is that the teacher got down and bowed to the student. We'll find out how that happens, but the gentleman bowing, notice no halo, no clouds, nothing special. In fact, he is truly a bodhisattva. His name is Mega, Mi Jie in Chinese, and he's called a Daren, a large person, a big person, not in size but in stature and in wisdom. So the various English translations, Lord Mega, we'll probably call him Lord Mega. That was one of the early translations. So Mi Jie Daren is his name. Interestingly, look at the crowd. So here's the onlookers. These were people who were listening to the talk, listening to Lord Mega's talk before Sudana wandered in. It's a low-res image, so as we blow it up, it pixelates. Sorry about that. So look here. They've got their palms together, and they're they're talking to each other. Because why? The teacher they were listening to just bowed, he made a prostration to this new young person who drifted into town. Here is somebody holding a musical instrument, a pipa or a guitar, right? Up here, look, see the devas. Now, these are devas because they're in the clouds, multicolored clouds, blue, red, yellow. Some of them are holding in their hands these tablets, holding this thing that they're holding here in their hands. Can you see? That's indication of their status among devas. They've come down to hear the Dharma. These characters don't look very distinguished. They look pretty rugged, and yet they're wearing officials' robes. So who are they? These are spirit beings. These might be Garudas, they might be Kinnaras, they might be Asuras, don't know. Again, over here, this guy clearly is, he looks like somebody who might be a warden in the hells. And yet he's holding a weapon. And what is he doing? He is supporting and protecting this gentleman in front of him, who is one of the spirit beings who is gathered to listen to Mega speak Dharma, Lord Mega. Lord Mega, meanwhile, is down here on the ground bowing to Sudana, and he's got, along with him, he has offering plates. He's about to make offerings to Sudana. So what is this? This is an artist's conception. In what you learn as you go out and research the Entering the Dharma Realm chapter is this story has captured the imagination of artists for a long time. Notice everybody here is wearing Chinese clothing. Those are Chinese artists who got the story and wanted to depict it, they wanted to illustrate it. Chances are, the original story, everybody was wearing Indian clothing because it's an Indian story originally. It made its way to China, and so now we got Chinese versions of it. What do you suppose Sudana looked like to the original Indian listeners? So, and what will he look like in 100 years after the story is told and retold here in Australia, California, in Paris, in Cape Town, as it goes around the world? Interesting. Sudana is going to morph again as artists get inspired by the story to want to illustrate it in their own style, in their own context. Okay, so there we are. By the way, stick around, those of you who are listening in, because we are definitely going to give some time to answering questions today. So, okay, here's our text right here. The entire name of our sutra is the Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yin Jing, Sutra of the Buddha's expanded teachings on the flower garland. And this is the Ru Fa Jie Pian, the chapter on merging with the Dharma realm, becoming one with the universe. Another way to translate it, right? Entering the Dharma realm, entering is not the right way to translate this Ru in this case. It's not like a door into the Dharma realm, but it is. It is. It's identifying with, becoming identical with the Dharma realm. So merging with, kind of integrating. That's another good translation of Ru, to integrate with, to become integral with, to you lose your boundaries in this chapter with the universe. Why? Because compassion is said to be Tong Ti Da Bei, same body, identity and substance. There's a Good Latin translation. Identity and substance. I am identical in substance. Same body. We share a body with the entire universe and all beings in it. That's great compassion. No difference between. This barrier, this skin barrier, doesn't hold. Okay. We lose that boundary and it becomes one substance. So that's great compassion. So everything that body feels, I feel too. Everything that body feels, I feel too. That's great compassion, the way the Buddha describes it. How come we're not there yet? It's because we have this view of me and mine, this created self that's in the way. 第39 part 4. Okay, translated 3 times by us. Look at that, translated in 1980, 2004, and 2024. Originally translated in the Chinese in 699, Tang Dynasty. Khotanese Silk Road translator Shikshananda translated on imperial command, says. We, Buddhist Text Translation Society, heard Master Hua explain it, 1980, put it into print between covers that we did calligraphy for. It was really homemade. They're wonderful and they still hold up. The English was in process. Our current English translation is in process. It's not a done thing. It suits our needs. The original one was full of what we call Chinglish because it reflects our ability to render the Avatamsaka Sutra into English at that level. I mean, it hadn't been done yet. Cleary, in the meantime, came out with his version. That's a work in progress. 2004, it was reprinted with beautiful covers. We're doing it again in 2024. When it's done, we'll have a new translation. So, work in progress. Probably the next generation will continue to have an Avatamsaka that speaks to them. Okay, here we are. 弥切达师达离必察果. Okay, ready? The call and response method works when there's a big audience. When it's not such a large audience, good to just keep it rolling. So I'm going to go down to here and invite folks at home to read along if you like. Here we go. 尔时善财童子一心正念法光明法门深信去入转念于佛不断三宝探离欲性念善知识普照三世益助大愿普救众生不着有为究竟思维诸法自性悉能严净一切世界与一切佛众会道场心无所着 Okay. Now the name of the country is, if you Sanskrit names are like this, they just go on and on. Dramida Patana. Dramadi Patana. Break it right there. Dramida Patana. Dramida Patana. Okay, here we go. Great Master Mega, Kingdom of Dramida Patana. At that time, the youth Sudana single-mindedly and correctly recollected the Dharma method of the Dharma's light, and he practiced it with deep reverence. He single-mindedly recollected the Buddha and never removed himself from the triple jewel. He praised the nature that is free from desire. He recalled his good advisor who illuminated the 3 periods of time. He recalled his great vows, which were to save all beings and not become attached to conditioned existence. He thoroughly pondered the inherent nature of dharmas. He was able to adorn and purify worlds. He remained unattached to the assemblies in the Bodhimandas of the Buddhas. Okay. Let's do what Shifu did so well. go through the text and add a little bit of context, a little bit of flavor, a little bit of clarity if it can be clarified. So I looked at our 1980 published version, and the rhythm that Master Hua set up, now mind you, he was lecturing 90 minutes a night, 90 minutes every night without break, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. We do it once a week for 90 minutes, but it doesn't, it includes the Dharma request, the transference, stories, etc. But Master Hua would pick which sentences to add some explanation. Not every line, and he also didn't just reread it. Sometimes he would take the classical Buddhist Chinese and just restate it in modern Mandarin. So with that in mind, here we go. Sudana, we know who it is. He's the pilgrim. Single-mindedly and correctly recollected the Dharma method of the Dharma's light, and he practiced it with deep reverence. What's he doing? He's absorbing what he just learned. The Dharma method of Dharma's light is what he learned from the bhikshu who was walking around in the air, Shanzhu Bicho, wholesome abode. He's got to make room for what he's going to get next, or else he's just wasting his time. So we've been saying we have a method of approaching the Avatamsaka, and it's called the practice-centered interpretation of the Avatamsaka. Okay, sorry for that's kind of long. What do I mean by that? The Avatamsaka Sutras teaches us about the Bodhisattva path. Bodhisattvas make vows and they practice. That's what they do. Bodhisattvas see people suffering and confused, and they're moved and they want to help. So they say, I'm going to stick around and help. That's the vow they make. How do I help? I learn different ways of taking my 6 senses and cleaning them up. I learn different ways of being a better person with my words, with my mind, my thoughts, and my behavior, my actions. And I try to share it. That's what they do. That's the practice-centered approach. The Avatamsaka is the best at that. It just takes ordinary folks and turns them into unselfish, socially aware. Bodhisattvas take woke and wake up woke. Got to go there very carefully. There's a civil war brewing in the land where these are dangerous words. Woke. Bodhisattvas are the grandmothers of woke. They are really unselfish, and they really live to benefit others. They are socially losers, in capital L, losers. They make losing in that sense of, if winning means making a lot of money and harming people, bodhisattvas are great losers because they live harmless lives. And they are, so I gotta pick my words carefully here. So these, the Bodhisattva path, this is a practice-centered interpretation of the Avatamsaka. Why do we say it that way? Because there are other interpretations of the Avatamsaka that are philosophy-centered, that are emptiness-centered. Boy, there are certain interpretations of this sutra that if you can get past sentence number 3, you're a better reader than I am, because I get stuck. It requires you to learn a whole new language before you can discuss the Avatamsaka. And it's a wonderful, profound way to look at this sutra. It's not our way. It's not Master Hua's way. So, what is our way? Sudana is a pilgrim. He's just been taught He's got to absorb it. So what's he doing? He's learning what he's absorbing what he just learned. He single-mindedly recollected the Buddha. Look at that. Never removed himself from the triple jewel. Buddhan Sambhao. Our first translation, he didn't sever the three jewels. That's literally what it says. Do not cut three jewels. What does that mean? Don't know. Never removed himself from the three jewels, from the triple jewel. Okay, that's meaning, you could just say it this way. He took refuge once upon a time and he remembered. He remembered his Dharma name. He remembered what he said the day that he took refuge. Now, for folks who are brand new, you go, what are you talking about? We have this ceremony called taking refuge. Let's just look at that for a minute. As Buddhism comes to Australia and Buddhism comes to North America and New Zealand and Canada and every place in between. If you attend a lecture or a retreat with the Theravada Bhantes, Theravada monks, come from the forest tradition of Thailand, up in the Isan, what do? One of the first things you do is you go, Buddham saranam gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami, Samgam saranam gacchami. And they have everybody repeat. And after you do it once, you go, Dutiyampi Buddham for the second time, Tatiyampi Buddham for the third time. You do it 3 times. What is that? That's taking refuge, Theravada style. And that's a big deal to be able to say, to the Buddha, I come in refuge. Yeah, and just to have everybody do that is pretty cool. To the Dharma, I come in refuge. To the Sangha, I come for refuge. Refuge? Why do you need a refuge? You need a refuge because the wind's blowing outside. Didn't people notice that the North Pole this week was 20 degrees centigrade? It's like, what? Yeah. How can the world of ice and polar bears be sunny and warm? Well, it is. I saw a headline yesterday that said climate scientists are scared because the temperature goal that the Paris Climate Accord warned about, we've already hit it this year. The one where they said beyond this we're in danger. There's no beyond this the earth doesn't return. We hit that climate goal. So where do we need refuge? Refuge is a real word for folks in Los Angeles who lost their homes. Up in North Queensland, towns are underwater because of the flooding right here in Queensland. Where do you go for refuge? So that's, I'm not going to illustrate that further, you understand. If you have the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as your refuge, what that means is the body may not be safe. When the fires burn, and California's dangerous for certain places, and we're holding our breath and crossing our fingers and putting our palms together all at once. Can you cross your fingers and put your palms together? Hoping for refuge because we live in California. We've committed our monastery to the redwoods in Santa Cruz. And a few years back, that burned right up to the edge of the property and stopped. So, maybe the body, maybe you have to let the body go, but what the Buddha provides us is refuge for the soul, refuge for the spirit, refuge for the heart. So if you don't have a safe place to go for your soul as the world burns up, you're lost. When you Buddham Saranam Gacchami, I go to the Buddha for refuge, what that allows you to do is find peace of mind no matter what happens. People who are sensitive and concerned, seeing what happened in America the last couple weeks, could be very, very distraught as we stopped all humanitarian aid to the world. So you need a place that's safe. You need a refuge. You need a safe harbor when the wind blows. Anybody who's ever sailed, even if it's not sailing, anybody who's ever put to sea beyond the breakwater, when you go out beyond the reef, when you go out beyond the harbor, into the deep water, into the swells, you keep your eye on the weather, because if the clouds get dark, the storm can come in really fast, and suddenly you realize this is not safe. I'm in a place where those swells are taller than our mast. My career as a merchant seaman, I went to sea in the merchant marine. There was a hurricane approaching. It was a tropical storm approaching where we were heading. We were coming from Yokohama to Seattle was the first destination, then down to Oakland. And as we could have gone straight across the Pacific, and that would have saved a couple days, but there was this tropical storm. So we had to go north, and we went north up near where Russia becomes Alaska. And we went through the tail end of a tropical storm, and the swells were 60 feet. To my job as merchant marine messmate third class, I was I emptied the garbage, I emptied the trash, and made the salads. And my job was to take the slops and put them over the railing into the ocean. Now illegal, but at the time, this is 1969. And so I remember opening the port, and first of all, the wind was coming against us, and you had to push to turn the wheel, push to open the door. And then when you went to the other side of the wave, the door goes slam against the bulkhead, and you're pulled, sucked out. And if the railing had not been there, that would have been the end of my life. But luckily I hit the rail with my midsection, and I was holding a garbage can, and dumped it and looked up, and the wave was cresting up there. And this was a C4 cargo ship, the largest cargo ship ever made, and so we were fine. But man, just to see the reality of a 60-foot wave, it's up there. For anybody who knows baseball, 60 feet is the distance between the pitcher's mound and the home plate. So that's a sizable, that's like 3 stories, three, in a building, that would be 3, first, second, third floor. So then, I had to scramble back to get in before the port slammed shut again. I made it, luckily. And our Swedish cook says, "Okay, that's your first test." He says, "You didn't die. It's good. There'll be more," he said. So, my goodness, when you get out into deep water, that is to say, you need a port. And the port, not a port meaning a door, but the port meaning a harbor. And when you're, if we had a large cargo ship, major engines and screws turning, if you have a sailboat, if you're there in a pleasure craft, a Chris craft, or a small, boat with an outboard motor, when the clouds turn gray or black or green, you need a port. You need a refuge. To the Buddha for refuge I go. Your soul, your spirit, your Buddha nature, your heart needs a place of reliance, something that is safe, stable, unchanging, and that you can find. It's findable. You need the compass bearing for that. So, Buddham saranam gacchami. And then the Dharma is principle, truth that doesn't change. Sangha is a community that doesn't change. And if you want a safe community that's reliable and unchanging, find one that's been around for 2,000 years, pretty much intact, and that's the Buddhist Sangha. So, as we say, buduan sambao, meaning, another translation I found was, so perpetuated the lineage. That's another way to say it. Carried on the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. But I think his translation is pretty skillful. You don't take yourself away from the safe harbor when the wind blows hard, when the wind blows high, and those 60-foot waves. That was close, that I made it back through that door and then down the ladder. Down, yeah, that's unforgettable. I was more nimble when I was 20 than I am now, for sure. So the Mahayana version of taking refuge is another story. But just to say, no matter whether we're northern tradition or southern tradition, to never remove yourself from the three jewels means that you take refuge in something secure in a time when many people take refuge in things that are insecure. I saw a statistic just this morning talking about drug overdoses in America, and I don't know about Australia or New Zealand or Europe or Taiwan or Korea or other places. In America, every year, more people die of drug overdoses than died in all wars combined in America. Every year. 100,000, we lose 100,000 Americans to drug overdoses every year. Something like every 6 minutes in the US, somebody dies by ingesting substances that then take their lives. That's a shocker. And yet, who's talking about that one? Who's talking about OD deaths in America? Is that a refuge? I guess. I guess people think this is getting high is better than the alternative. And it's not. It just kills people. Back in the 80s, when I was living in Vancouver, we were in Gold Buddha Monastery. We were in a place that was called the Queen's Highway as it reached the western end of that in Vancouver, hit the Pacific Ocean. East Hastings Street was the name. And East Hastings, we were just right down by Chinatown. It's the oldest part of Vancouver. There were single residence occupancy hotels that had just divided up the rooms to where you could get a bed and a sink, and that was it. And they were pulling dead bodies out of the single occupancy residence, SOR, I guess SRO, every single day. And the problem was so acute that the city of Vancouver couldn't handle it. They wanted to give it to the province of British Columbia. British Columbia couldn't handle it. They wanted to give it to the federal government. The federal government said, we can't deal with this. You figure out something to do with all these dead people who are killing themselves with drug overdoses. And so this is a major, major question. And it's out of control in America. So where do we go for refuge? If we go to money, a lot of people just go to money for refuge. Well, how about Bitcoin? Yeah, Bitcoin. Here's a good one. Get rich quick. Get a blockchain that just is going to pay off this time. And overnight, you suddenly discover that you are penniless. Bitcoin tanked. It's the people who promoted this particular coin as the one to invest in, all pulled out of it together because it was not regulated. Bitcoin is an unregulated form of currency. It amounts to gambling, basically. And you can find yourself, you thought you're going to get rich, and you're suddenly, overnight, you owe a lot of money to people, and you better pay up. So is that a secure refuge? It is not. So what is a secure refuge? Alcohol. Love. Love is a secure refuge. You and me, baby, forever and forever, Hope so, but often that proves to be an insecure refuge as well. So why not? If only, we would hope. But suppose you find the perfect partner, and then cancer, or heart disease, or, So, safe refuge. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha have proved to be reliable, trustworthy for lots of years. Okay, that's enough on that. So, Shifu didn't lecture at such length, but I think we look for fancy magic, psychic powers, forgetting that if we came to the Dharma, at some point we probably took refuge if we're committed Buddhists. So what does that mean to you? Where do you go? Buddham saranam gacchami. To the Buddha I come for safe harbor, because the winds are blowing strong. The hour that the ship comes in, said Bob Dylan. He praised the nature that is free from desire. Now, as I take this is our, Sudana is still, these are still the early days. He's got 50 teachers to go to still. And the fact that his nature is not yet free from desire indicates that the sutra shows his progress. The later advisors, he has already removed desire from his nature, but at this point, not yet. That's not easy to do. Desire is what makes living beings, and he is more a living being now than he is a bodhisattva. He's on the path. He's a student. Okay. He remembers his good advisors who illuminated the 3 periods of time. I would probably make that a plural, advisors. He recalled his great vows. Now, is it his vows or his advisors' vows? It's not clear. His vows, which were to save beings and not become attached to conditioned existence. Yep. Okay, easy to say, hard to do. He thoroughly pondered the inherent nature of dharmas. Okay, key here. Sudana is one of those guys who thinks deeply. When I was a kid, baseball was much more important than letting on that you thoroughly pondered the inherent nature of dharmas. If my sports buddies knew that I was meditating at age 14, I would have been laughed at. I was a jock, a 4-season athlete, excuse me, and yet at the same time, I was totally fascinated by the books that I was finding in the library. The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, wow. A guy who went to India as part of the British Army, but found himself fascinated by yogis who could do things that his regimental commander couldn't do. The one that I remember the most, and people have heard this story, but he describes going to the marketplace, finding a yogi who is able to take a red cloth, a yellow cloth, a blue cloth, and a white cloth, swallow them down, and then, depending on the audience, whoever requests, bring the cloths back up in any order you choose. Red one first or white one first. No, I was like, whoa, cool. And gross. He had such control of his stomach. Do you want the white cloth first? Oh, here comes the white cloth. Now that's a yogi. Oh my goodness. So the Lives of the Bengal Lancer was, it's like, I was reading that and I couldn't tell anybody about that. Who could I tell that I was interested in that? They would go, we don't want to play basketball with you anymore. So Sudana is that kind of guy. He was pondering the inherent nature of dharmas. Bill Cosby, back when Bill Cosby was still legit, Bill Cosby had a routine. Why is there air? He said. Why is there air? And the answer was, I know why there's air. There's air so you can blow up basketballs and footballs, and the gravity works that way. So it was kind of a joke. Somebody who would ponder the inherent nature of dharmas was kind of a joke. Sudana lives in a world where he doesn't have to apologize for asking questions like that. I was that kind of kid too. Why? How come the stars just don't seem to stop? Did the stars stop? Is there anywhere where there's no stars? Fascinating. Okay, this one, I admit, we who translate and ponder the nature of dharmas don't know what to do with 悉能眼净一切世界. What does it mean to adorn and purify worlds? Man, oh man. Anybody who's listening in here and wants to contribute? Let's see here. Before I launch into that one, let's finish it. Remained unattached to the assemblies and the bodhimandas of the Buddhas. Okay. So he can go to Sudana. Is he able already to go to assemblies and the bodhimandas? I think it's his good advisor who can do that. Sudana isn't there yet. He can't function. He can't, send out response bodies yet. Okay, back to this one. The idea that you adorn and purify worlds means that you're sort of an interior decorator for the universe. I'm going to adorn it. I'm going to change the wallpaper, put up some curtains, maybe a different rug. That's not what it means. Purify, it's dirty. I'm going to get some Mr. Clean. Mr. Clean can clean up dirt and grime and grease in just a minute. Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. I watched those commercials when I was a kid. So, no, that's not what it means. You're not going around with a mop and a bucket to the world and adorning it. You don't put a wreath on the door or something. That's not what it means. I really don't think so. And I think that's a mistranslation. 眼净世界. Power words, because it appears all the time. Look here. It's decorate, yan. But yan can also mean 尊严. It can also mean 敬严. So it can mean, as a adjective, it can mean splendid, magnificent. 尊严, right? 敬, together with that, can mean to make it essential, to get to the essence of it, to get down to the core, to the real center of a world that is magnificent and sublime and supreme. Yen can mean all of those things. Now, here's what I think it means. When we transfer merit in the Chinese, we say, 愿以此功德庄严佛净土. I want to take my merit and virtue and zhuangyan, Buddha's Pure Lands. I don't think it means make them pretty. I think it means create. I think this is creation. So much of Christian, Jewish, Muslim theology is to do with the creation story. That's where it begins. In that case, it's a supreme being who makes the world in 7 days. The seventh day he rests. What are we doing when we transfer merit? 庄严佛净土, 愿以此功德庄严佛净土. Where did the Amitabha's Pure Land come from? our story goes, here was a monk whose name was Fazang, and he said, I'm going to make a Pure Land where there's no suffering. And to 3 great Asankhya eons worth of hard work, and the Pure Land came into being based on his 48 vows. That's our Pure Land story. That's our Amitabha story, right? So when a bodhisattva is here, able to adorn and purify worlds, he's dedicating merit to make a place like that. It's creation, I think. I don't think it's decoration. Decoration's superficial. Adorning that's not the right word. He is able to create pure lands, I think, is what this means. So it's controversial, but I'm sticking to my version, because I can't see bodhisattvas. I want to make a pretty place. It's really nice. We're going to change the paintings. We're going modern abstract, right? Abstract expressionist instead of classics. That's what you do when you adorn a world. That's not what it's saying at all. He remained unattached to the assemblies and the bodhimandals. Okay, here's the action part of the story. Are we ready? 见似难行，志自在成，求觅弥切，乃见其人与世四中，作欲说法狮子之作，时前忍众，所共围绕，说论字庄严法门。He gradually traveled south till he arrived at the city of sovereignty. He went looking for Mega. He saw him in the midst of a marketplace, seated on a lion's throne and speaking Dharma. 10,000 people surrounded him while he explained the Dharma method of adornment with the wheel of syllables. Here it is again. Adornment, adorned with the wheel of syllables. Created by. Creation via, right? I think it's a creation story that we're talking about, because that's what bodhisattvas do. Okay, this is our first encounter with the teacher. I have a lovely two-volume set of books, which are illustrated by Hua, contemporary discussions of Sudana's story. You see our little guy here? This is the artist's image of Sudana. Okay, the cover is the Buddha blessing Sudana. We don't put Buddhas on the cover of our books very often. But what I wanted to show folks is, this is, the Sudana's pilgrimage is so evocative that people have been illustrating the story for hundreds and hundreds of years. Artists really love it. I want to share a picture that I found in Mega's story. Here he is. Okay, Sudana is here. Here is Mega down below. Let's see. Here he is on on the ground. Notice his chair is empty, his Dharma seat. And here's the assembly around him. And Sudana is over here. That's what makes this, that's what gives the dramatic tension to this interesting encounter with a teacher, is the teacher bows to the student, right? Interesting. See the audience down here watching? So this is, it retells the story in gentle, everyday Mandarin. Let's see. 再为我说，密切记住下狮子之作. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I'll tell it off the sutra instead of the translation. So interestingly, I found another retelling of the story. People have been wanting to share this incredible saga, this epic literature, and so they use ordinary language to retell it. feeling that people are kind of locked out of it by the classical Chinese. And definitely that's the case. That's what Master Hua did. But it's something else. You need affinities. You need to have a connection with the Avatamsaka before you even sit down to wanna listen to it. There's, if that weren't true, this would be more popular. So language is an issue. People hear that the Avatamsaka is philosophy and they stay away. Then there are the actual concepts, the principles that you have to come to grips with. But when you look at it through the lens of practice, a practice-centered interpretation, this is not philosophy. It's instructions. It's a how-to. In this case, how to follow bodhisattvas, how to walk the bodhisattva path, right? So, just like Sudana, we're asking these questions. Okay, let's do that, and then we're going to switch over to questions that people have been asking. Okay, a little bit, right, we'll go right down to here. 使善财童子顶礼其祖，绕无量匝，于前合掌而作誓言：圣者，我依先发阿耨多罗三藐三菩提心，而我谓之菩萨云何学菩萨行，云何修菩萨道。At that time, move it over here. The youth Sudana, one more time. We need better handles on PDFs. There we go. At that time, the youth Sudana bowed at his feet, circled him limitless times, and reverently placing his palms together, said, Venerable sage, I've already expressed the resolve for Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, but I still don't know how a bodhisattva studies, bodhisattva practices, and how he cultivates the bodhisattva path. Okay, there it is. That's the Sudana's motivating questions. And what follows are 10 more. He's got 10 more things on his mind. So he is a youth, he's a tongzi, and as I looked out today on the internet at how people have been interpreting Sudana and his quest, I got a whole bunch of paintings, images of Sudana, and in almost every single one, he's a baby. He's a baby in diapers. There's even some where he's naked. He's a little fat cherub running around with his butt cheeks hanging out, you know. And it's like, okay. People heard tongzi, and they interpreted it. Maybe they'd never even turned a page of the Avatamsaka, but they made him a tongzi. So the youth Sudana, look at what he does. Here's his ritual stuff. Bowed at Mega's feet, circled him limitless times, put his palms together, and asked his questions. How do you xue Pusa Heng? How do you xing Pusa Dao? How do you study the practices? How do you walk the path? That's what he wants. And then following that, there are 10 more questions. So clearly, Sudana has already asked. He's already done his diligence. There we go. Right? Does that look like somebody who could travel for months with a backpack looking for a teacher? Come on. And if I saw that, I would think, I don't want to have anything to do with any book that talks, this is the hero. It's like, so why is the Avatamsaka so little known and unpopular? Now this one is a little closer. He looks like somebody who could actually walk a trail, climb a mountain, ask a question. He's got his pack, he's got his traveling shoes, he's got hair. Yeah, so there's a mature Sudana. Most of them are like this. Here he is at Manjushri's lion's feet. I got a lot. Oh, there's the blow up. Yeah, here's Manjushri. Here's Sudana. The tongzi. This is a pretty standard one. That's a Chinese baby. Yeah. They all depict him with his palms together. So they've got him as a student. He is able to be led, able to be taught. Okay, good stuff. Questions that ought to be answered. I agree. We ought to answer these questions. Why don't we answer them? Okay, have to get the translator to translate as I go. Heng Shi, I understand. Reciting the Dabe Jo is one way to get to Sukhavati. Is reciting the Heart Sutra an acceptable method to get to Sukhavati also? Thank you. Okay. Not so much, unless it is your intention. What's the best way to get to Sukhavati? Sukhavati is the Pure Land. That's Amitabha's Pure Land of utmost happiness, or ultimate bliss. There's a set of practices called Dabe Faman, Great Compassion Doors, Great Compassion Methods, that focus around, take as their heart, Amitabha's name. People are funny. The Buddha says, recite my name, you'll get to the Pure Land. People go, I don't want to do that. Can I still go to the Pure Land? Yeah, the Great Compassion Dharma doors. Recite Amitabha's Sutra. There are 3 of them. That one will do it. Because in the Pure Land there's Amitabha in the center, great strength on one side, and Guanyin on the other side. There's Shifang Sansheng, the 3 sages of the West. If you recite Great Strength Bodhisattva's section of the Shurangama Sutra, because it's great strength, Mastama Prapta, you can do that. Because it's Guanyin Bodhisattva, if you recite the Great Compassion Mantra, that's another one of the Dabe Fama, the Great Compassion Doors. There's another one, Amitabha's Mantra, Namo Ami Dopoye, Doto Chedoye, the Wang Sheng Zhou, the After Rebirth mantra, because it's Amitabha's mantra. That's pretty much the set of Great Compassion Doors that are said to be directly, that'll take you there. There is Jingdu Wu Jing, or Jingdu San Jing 3, 5 sutras of the Pure Land, 3 sutras of the Pure Land. They are also. So what are they? They are Samantabhadra's Practices and Vows, chapter 5 of the Avatamsaka, chapter 40 of the Avatamsaka Sutra. We're on chapter 39 right now. So that is also a Pure Land door because of the teachings in it. So there's various supporting methods similar to Amitabha's name, which are all considered Pure Land Dharma doors, Jingdu Fama, Dabe Fama. Do those. Heart Sutra mentions Guanyin. Yeah, the Heart Sutra has other uses. It belongs to the Boro, the Prajna constellation of teachings. So now, when I said intention, if you say, I'm going to recite 100,000 Heart Sutras and go to the Pure Land, Amitabha is not going to reject you, but why go in a side door? Why not just go in the front door when it's wide, right? They say, what do you need to get to the Pure Land? Xin, Yuan, Xin. You need to believe it's there, you have to vow to get there, then you have to practice one of the methods. Okay, I'm living in San Francisco and I want to get to Los Angeles, so I'm going to go to Sacramento and then go to Los Angeles. Yeah, I mean you can, but why not just go straight to Los Angeles? Okay. Amitabha Master, is it okay to tell a harmless lie For example, I'm an older unmarried woman. When I go out, people try to set me up on blind dates. Now, I tell people I am married to avoid a lot of trouble. I think lying is quite good. Okay. Yep. So, my suggestion, and I am, mind you, it's easy for me. People don't set me up on blind dates. I don't look like I'm marriageable. So I don't have your experience. And I'm actually, you could say, not qualified to answer this question in that I'm not in the marriage market. I can certainly sympathize. Is it okay to tell a harmless lie? You can tell harmful lies. Does that make it okay, is the question. Telling lies is telling lies. And the Buddha told lies. There's the famous episode where the Buddha saw a child heading towards a well. We don't have wells that much. You could say heading towards the freeway. And if he didn't intervene, the child was going to fall in the well and his life would be in danger. So the Buddha said, "Hey, come on back. I got some candy, something you like, right here in my hand." And the baby's like, "Whoa," turned around, instead of crawling to the well, came to the Buddha. The Buddha did not have candy in his hand. But he said, I gave the child something sweeter. I gave him his life by telling a lie. The Buddha pays the price for telling the lie. It's not that you get off because you're the Buddha and, that cause and effect goes, oh, well, we can understand. No. But the Buddha is willing to take the consequences of the lie for an expedient higher purpose. You're telling a lie so that people will leave you alone. And you don't have to go on blind dates, or people don't, they set you up at the blind date and you go, I'm married. Do you wear a ring? Do you have a fake ring? If you just flash your hand with a fake ring, you can get a ring out of, a cheap jewelry store. Put it on your finger. You don't have to tell a lie, just flash your hand or something, or point to it. That might be better. So the goal is to save trouble. You're saving the irritation of people trying to set you up, but by saying, I'm married when you're not, you're giving yourself more trouble by telling a lie, which is a lie. So, what about saying instead, not interested? Thank you. I appreciate your kindness. In your mind, you think I will be happy when I'm married. That's your business. That's your story for me. I have my own story. Thank you very much. Not interested. You might respect yourself even more just by acknowledging their kindness towards you and their busybodiness, right? Giving you trouble. It's friends who, in their story for you is you're married. Your story for you, which matters more than their story for you, is you're not interested. Tell the truth. You'll respect yourself. Hello, Master Shi. Hello. I would like to ask what Buddhist practitioners should pay attention to when engaging in creative work, such as developing educational games for children or script writing. Wow. Okay, the Chinese is 想问你，佛教徒做文艺创意工作，比如儿童益智游戏开发、片刷等，需要注意些什么？ What should you pay attention to when engaging in creative work? Okay, that's your question is too broad for me to do more than, surmise, just guess. I might hit it, I might not. I would need something a little more specific. One thing that you can definitely, if you're script writing, if you're creating educational games, Work with gender issues. For example, one of the crises right now in America, and I'm told in Australia, I don't know about Australia as well as I know about America, is children growing up without fathers. Somehow, wholesome male role models are hard to find these days. To find an example of a man who is both strong and gentle seems hard to find. So if you can write a script where the heroes, the models, are both masculine and available, they hang out with kids, they take kids swimming, they let kids watch while they build things, they engage in projects such as helping older people, and they do it with a happy heart and a smile. That's missing. That's hard to find. If you look at the offerings on streaming movies, so much of them are violent. And I was looking the other day, just because I'm interested in storytelling in the culture, so many of the entertainments have to do with assassins, what's called hitmen. There's movie after movie after movie about hitmen. And so these are killers, people who can kill for hire. It's like, that's entertainment. And that's a toxic view of who we should be paying attention to in our stories. So if you can create educational games or write scripts for movies that have nothing to do with violence, how many of our lives are actually touched by violence on a daily basis that we have to, when it's time to, find recreation or diversion, we have to hear a story about someone who's going to kill someone? Suppose your stories, your scripts, and your creative work have to do with people who actually save others, or serve others, or live together with them to, after the party is over, to clean up. People who do that with a happy heart. People who spend their time watching plants grow, finding out how to feed ourselves through the earth. Probably one of the most important skill sets coming in the future is how to bring food out of the ground. We're coming to a time when water is going to be more important than oil, more valuable and harder to find. So if we can learn how to grow things, what plants need less water and can still feed us, that's really, really important. Men who do things like stopping fights, learning how to be patient. In your script or your children's games, learning the Dharma of patience, how to really be patient. Somebody calls you a name, somebody calls your mother a name, and you don't have to hit them. You can say, "No, you don't know my mom. My mom's nothing like that. How are you doing? Was your mom like that? Nah, you don't know my mother. My mother would laugh if you called her that name, so I'm not going to fight you. That button doesn't irritate me." So that's it, how to take insult without violence. That's a huge skill that a strong male role model could definitely display. So Buddhist practitioners, if you can, here's one, in your script, talk about people who enact not fighting, no greed, no seeking, no selfishness, no self-benefit, and no dishonesty. Somebody who never lies. I got another one for you. We had a nun in our community. I've told this story before. We have a nun in our community who resolutely does not gossip. It's amazing. In a circle, when she's in a group conversation with 2 or more people, the conversation goes around to talking about somebody, they're, you know, 讲是讲非, 长他们的长短. They're talk about their rights and wrongs, their longs and shorts. The conversation goes around, she doesn't talk. And there's this silence, everybody else is going, yeah, did you see about so-and-so, did you hear the story about... And she's just there and not taking part in the gossip. And the people doing the gossiping go, oh, we were doing it again, weren't we? Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you for reminding us. Write a story, write a script about somebody who refuses to gossip, somebody who doesn't fight, who's not greedy, who refuses to take more than they deserve, who refuses to seek, who says, I'm content, I don't need a new one. Powerful. That would be really, really powerful. That's what a Buddhist could pay attention to. Okay, more. Disciple Qing Jing has 2 questions. First, move long. I've set up a winter vacation class for elementary school kids in a local community in China, running for a week. Mostly public welfare and free, giving veggie food at noon for free. Got approval and appreciation from parents and students. Good. Key reason for me to run this public welfare class is to accompany his own child. However, public welfare won't last long. Fee standards must be reasonable. Once you charge for the class, should I treat parents' enrollment decisions with a calm mind? How can the disciple follow the 6 principles in children's education rather than focusing on profit making? How can one become a good teacher that children like, become a storyteller, expert, Amitabha? Okay, a lot of questions within this one question here. So, if the question has to do with the financing of what previously was free, that's a tough one, and it's kind of beyond my expertise. So we're facing this here at the moment. I'm teaching a class on handwriting, calligraphy, and there is some expense. We had to create the books and pay for the pens for handwriting and the paper. I went ahead and subsidized the first purchase, and because people make offerings to me, and I want to distribute the knowledge of handwriting to those who want it. So I'm going to let the parents know what it cost and invite them, if everyone who gets a book and a pen and all, if they would like to make an offering to the monastery of that amount. That way they get the booklets and the pens, and they also get to plant some blessings. So that's one way. The question is what you're offering worth the amount that it's going to cost if you have to charge? Is there value to the parents and the kids for what you're offering? If so, you can charge. It's not, if you have a patron, if you have somebody who is willing to pay the full thing so that you can continue to be free of charge, that's nice. If you don't, the question is what you're offering valuable? If so, charge for it. People, and make it transparent. Show. You can post on the board outside how much. Be really clear, really transparent, so that it's clear that you're not putting money in your pocket. And that's straight, that's free, that's reasonable. If anyone thinks that it's got to entirely be free, at the Berkeley Monastery, we have never, ever charged for the Dharma. We had some lay people who scolded me and said, why don't you put the donation box by the door so that people, every time they walk by, they understand they should put money in the donation box? Why is the donation box down in, you have to go look for it to find it? And this was someone who definitely had money on her mind all the time. I am not someone who has money on my mind all the time. And yet, what we say to people who come to our Dharma teaching, we say, Seishi, joyfully support whatever you feel. You would, if you'd like to support it, if you can, excellent. You can put money in the box. Up to you. I'm not going to think about it. It's not on my mind that, this person paid more so they get to sit closer. There are Buddhist communities where how close you get to the Buddha depends entirely on how much money you donate. If you want to, let's do the Great Compassion Repentance. Front 5 rows, $1,000. Next 10 rows, $500. The back, well, there's some free ones, but we know who you are, right? It is a money proposition. And I grew up in I don't want to criticize. Let's say, there is in Scottish Presbyterian tradition of Christianity, making money is doing God's work. The wealthier you are, clearly, the more you are chosen by God. And the result of that is mainstream Protestant Christianity is struggling these days because the wealth gospel stinks, and people know it stinks. Being wealthy doesn't indicate holiness, and that's how that teaching went. So anyway, there's Buddhist groups right now who absolutely preach prosperity gospel. Buddha didn't say anything wrong with making money, right? So most of the monks and nuns in that community have stock portfolios. It is the case. That, to me, just doesn't ring the bells. So, yes, we understand you're not making money. Put on the wall how much it cost, and now if you are putting money in your pocket, people aren't going to stay. They're going to say this is not right. So, how do you become a storytelling expert? Listen for stories. Develop your story listening muscles. That's how you do. There's stories happening left and right all the time. So if you can listen and hear stories happening around you, you'll be able to relate them to people, and it will make sense. Master Hua was constantly saying, this is a case of this principle. And he would point to the principle underlying everything in the world. There is a li and there are shi. There's a principle that is usually invisible, but it's always there. It's the roots of the tree under the ground. Trees stand on their roots. Half of the tree is visible. Half of the tree is invisible. You don't see it, but it's the roots under the ground that hold the trunk and the branches and the leaves and the fruit up. So storytelling is, you want to talk about this apple? Well, there's a root under the ground that had to be there before you can have an apple. So what do they say? If you can take a bite of the apple and remember the root, you've got cause and effect. And that makes sense, and people hear it and go, I see that, yeah. So storytelling is that way. When something happens, look for the cause. And if you can connect the principle and the effect, the circumstance, you've got a good story. Okay, our time is more. We'll continue. I only did one of your 2 questions here for changing. We'll get there. Quickly, Namo, may I ask, what determines human blessings? I asked that very question to Shifu. Shifu, how do you create blessings? He said, 令他人欢喜, make other people happy. That simple, Shifu? 令他人欢喜. He said, notice, I didn't say make yourself happy. If you can make other people happy, you are creating blessings. When you make other people happy, you are potentially on the path to 种福天. So, what are the number one blessings fields? Taking care of the sick, taking care of your parents, right? Giving, 令他人欢喜, making others happy. So, there you go. Time to dedicate merit. So, I'm not going to do politics, not going to do it, not going to do it. It's very tempting to draw conclusions, but I don't want to do that. Spoil it. Let's dedicate merit with this. Here's a way to give. Wow. Give with your mind. Give with your heart. Send it out to the world. That's what we need the most. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. If we were at the city of 10,000 Buddhas, we would be looking at this Guan Yin. We can bow. Excuse me. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. See you all next week. Amitofo. Bye now.